I've got a new EVSE in the State of Charge garage, and that means it's review time. This time it is the IYILO RA48 electric vehicle charger. IYILO's a newcomer to the electric vehicle charging scene. This is the first product that they have out. There's actually two versions of it. The RA40, which is a 40 amp plug-in unit, comes with a NEMA 1450 plug, and the RA48, which we have here today. Interestingly though, you can get the RA48 as a plug-in with a NEMA 1450 plug and also as a hardwired unit. So if you were to get it with the NEMA 1450, perhaps you have a NEMA 1450 outlet, but in the future you plan on upgrading that circuit and charging at 48 amps, you might buy the RA48 with the NEMA 1450 plug, use it as a 40 amp unit, and then when you upgrade the circuit, hardwire it, and then you could pull 48 amps. Interesting thing about this brand here is they actually reached out to me about a year ago and told me, look, we're going to be developing the best electric vehicle charger on the market. You know, I wish I had $1 for every company that told me that. And they also said it's going to be the safest, which I found very interesting. And I get a lot of requests to review charging equipment. I just don't have the bandwidth and the time to review all of them because it takes me a while, a week or two, to do a full comprehensive review on these units. I really want to use them and get a feel for the unit. I'm not just opening the box up and plugging it in, regurgitating the specs to you guys and saying, yeah, that's my review. I actually use the hell out of these chargers and get a real feel on how robust they are before I publish the review. And I agreed to review this unit after having conversations with the company, and they told me they watch all my reviews and they're confident that I'm going to like what they're putting out, and the fact that they said safety was their #1 concern. So they've taken some steps to make sure that this is one of, if not the safest electric vehicle chargers on the market. So we'll figure out if that's true or not in the review. So why don't we start the unboxing now and get to work. All right, let's see what comes in the box. We've got the unit here, nice compact unit. Looks like it's only somewhere around, I'd say 9 inches by 10 inches, by only about maybe 3.5, 4 inches thick. Nice compact unit, I like that. It has an integrated connector holster. So there's no remote connector holster with this. I know some people like to use a remote connector holster. You could always buy one of those for like 20 bucks online and mount that, say, on the side of your garage where you plug in. Some people don't want to walk back and forth to the base of the unit, and they keep their connector plugged in on a remote connector holster right where their charge port is when they pull in their garage. So you could do that, but it does come with this remote connector holster here. Nice thin 25-foot cable, very thin, one of the thinner cables that we've tested here. This looks like it's probably only around 14 millimeters. We'll measure that later to check it out. The connector is a good high quality connector. This feels and looks like the same connector that EVCO uses, which is one of my favorite connectors. And also this top locking pin here is nice and wide and thick, and it's metal. So this is the pain point on connectors for braking. Sometimes when you drop them when it's cold out, which we'll do the connector drop test later, this is the part that breaks most frequently, and often you can't replace it. And I like when these locking tabs are thick and metal, and this is one of my favorite connectors here. So it's a good job, good connector selection for this company. This would be the watertight conduit that's going to be used for hardwiring. As I mentioned, I said this is a hardwire unit, so this will go in here, goes up into the base of the unit itself. which is a plastic fitting. I don't really love that, but everything's plastic these days. There should be no stress on it once it's hardwired. I don't know if you can alternatively hardwire through the back of this unit. I'm guessing you can't because it's not a big unit and the mounting brackets on the back, but we'll know once we open it up. It looks like this is how you're going to be hardwiring it. Some people like a clean installation. You can see this Tesla wall connector. You can't see any wires or anything coming out of it because I have a rear entry for the power feed. I think this one you're going to be required to come in through the bottom here, which is no deal breaker, but I like to mention that when I do these thorough reviews. Okay, over here, we've got 5 expansion bolts. I suppose you'd be using these if you mounted it into concrete somewhere. This is an extra locking security screw that attaches the wall mounting bracket to the unit itself. It comes with the 2 screws installed on both sides here. So this is just an extra one because you don't want to lose that. You want to make sure it's secured tightly to the wall. And then also 5 regular screws with sheetrock anchors and 5 washers here. These are pretty good. Sometimes we get these little wimpy screws and drywall anchors with these chargers, and these things are heavy. You might be pulling on them sometimes. So I like when you get a nice beefy drywall anchor, and you still want to try to find a stud. You want to screw these screws right into wood or metal, whatever your framing is in your house. But if you can't, you want a beefy drywall anchor. And these seem like they should be fine. And also the Allen key for the locking bolts that attach the unit to the wall mounting bracket. Here's the installation and user manual. This is a quick installation guide. This is the wall mounting template, the 4 screws that you need to drill into the wall to mount the unit. You notice they give you 5 of each, 1 extra of both, as well as the 1 extra for the mounting bracket. I like that when they give you an extra of everything because we all make mistakes. We all drop and break things. Okay, and then this is here, I don't know, just kind of like a poster. Thank you for choosing our product. This would be the amperage rating labels, the stickers that you would put on your load center on the circuit so that you know that it's a 60 amp circuit or 50 amp circuit or whatever you're going to attach this to. And this is 2 RFID cards for remote access. You can see here on the front of the unit, there's a little picture of like an RFID access. I like that this unit has remote access with RFID cards. This is particularly useful if the unit is mounted outdoors. I know a lot of people now that do like Airbnb are installing chargers there for their renters, and they don't want to have the chargers mounted outside and for public access for anyone to use. So the key card is inside the building. When you come in and rent your Airbnb, you have this so you could activate the charger outside, but the public can't use it. So I'm not sure if there's also remote access through the app. This does come with an app, which we'll be exploring a little bit later, but it does have the RFID cards, which is great. Okay, that's pretty much it for the initial look at the unit. Now, before we jump into the review, let's take a look at the key features of this charger. State of Charge is powered by Newcomer, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Newcomer install it. And if you do follow that link, Newcomer will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. The IYILO 48 amp charger costs $359. Interestingly, the 40 amp version of this also costs $359. The dimensions are 8.7 inches by 9.8 inches by 4.4 inches. It's a 48 amp Wi-Fi connected charger which can deliver up to 11.5 kilowatts to your electric vehicle. The output is adjustable from 16 amps up to the full 48 amps. It has a 25-foot long cable. It's only available with the J1772 connector. It has a NEMA 4 enclosure. It's capable of power sharing with multiple units. It has dynamic load management capability. The operating temperature is 122 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a Wi-Fi connected smart charger. It's UL listed, Energy Star rated, comes with a standard 3-year warranty, and the unit is made in China. All right, we'll start off with installing the IYILO. I've already removed the 2 security screws on the side with the provided tool. And once you do that, the back bracket lifts off the unit. Let me show you here. When it's on the back, once it's mounted, it's going to slide up, and the top part of the bracket locks underneath the plastic enclosure, while the bottom part of the bracket gets screwed in through those 2 holes on the side. So now, once this is out, you can mount this bracket on the wall. To do so, you use the template that they gave you wherever you want to locate it. You can mark out where you're going to drill your anchors. And this gets mounted on the wall like this, with the long tab sticking out on the bottom and the hooks on the top, because that's what it hooks into. And then you put the unit on top of it and tighten the screws again. Now, because I don't do permanent installations here, I need to mount this on a bracket that I use on my slot wall. I'm going to do that now, and then we'll jump back once I have this mounted up on the wall. All right, so after you've mounted the mounting bracket on the wall, it's time to hang the unit. And normally you wouldn't have to open the unit up at all, especially if it's a plug-in unit. You just plug it in and you're good to go. Even if it's the hardwired unit, you wouldn't have to open it up. The only time you really have to open up the unit is if you want to dial down the power output, or if you had a 48 amp version and you wanted to use it as a plug-in version, so you needed to set it to 40 amps. So I opened it up just to demonstrate. To do that, there's 7 screws on the back that you have to unscrew, and then the cover lifts off. When the cover lifts off, you have to be careful because there's a bunch of these plugs that you need to unplug first that go from the unit to the cover. And you have to make sure you don't yank the cover off because they'll break easily. They're not thick wires, but you have to unplug those. I think it was 5 different plugs here. Yeah, 5 different plugs. And now that you have the unit up, you can take a look inside. This here is the wheel that sets the output. And interesting, they actually have it listed here on the position. Usually you only get that in the owner's manual, but the company actually listed it here. Position 0 is 16 amps, position 1 is 32 amps, position 2 is 40 amps, and positions 3 through 9 is 48 amps. So I like that they put it in there. Typically you got to hunt through your owner's manual to know what the power output's going to be. And if you're going to hardwire it, at this point you would put on the waterproof conduit here, and this is going to get attached in a junction box somewhere, and that's how you're going to bring your power in. I took a look here. There is really no place to bring the power in through the back. So this is where your power feed is going to be. Many electric vehicle chargers give you the option with a knockout in the back, sometimes even on the top and on the sides, because it depends on where the power's coming out. You don't have any option here. Your power's coming in through here. That's typically not an issue for most people, but on occasion, the challenging installations, that could be a problem. So that's where you're bringing your power in, and that is where you adjust the power output. All right, it's time for our cold weather testing. I put the IYILO charger in this deep freezer 24 hours ago. This is a very deep freezer, not a normal freezer. It gets way down, well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's see how cold it is right now. Negative 11.5 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so now we'll take the charger out. We'll see how flexible the cable is, and then we'll do the connector drop test. As you can see, I always coil the cable up in these tight loops, and then we'll see how easily it unfolds and how easy it is to manage while you are working with a frozen cable. Okay. Seems like it's unfoiling nicely. Okay, let's see here. Okay, very good. That's what you want to see. sometimes the cables will remain in these tight coiled up loops, kind of like a spring, and it becomes very difficult to work with the cable if your charger's located outside and it's over the winter and you're unplugging in the morning or whenever. See this? That's great. This is an excellent score. It's going to get an excellent score on the ChargerRater. So this is what you want to see. This is very nice and easy to work with. So you can hang it back up over the charger nice and easily. It's not fighting me. Look at that. This is great. This is one of the best cold weather cables that we've tested so far. That's fantastic. Okay, so it passes with a great grade on the cold weather flexibility. Now we'll do the connector drop test. So you can see the connector is frozen. There's some ice forming on it. We're going to drop it now 5 times on this concrete floor and make sure that it can handle a few drops, because if you have an EV and you're charging on occasion, you're going to drop your connector. It's just going to happen. Three, 4, and 5. We'll go a little bit higher. 5. Okay, some scuffs on the edges, but everything's fine. The connector tab's working as it's supposed to. I wasn't expecting to have a problem with this connector because, as I mentioned earlier, this is one of the better connectors that are on the market. The company has sourced one of my top connectors. Companies don't make their own connectors. It's a commodity. They buy them. I think ChargePoint may have made their own connector, but other than that, there's dozens and dozens of connectors that you could purchase, and this is one of the better ones, so I'm glad that IYILO chose this connector. It's a good connector. All right, so it passes cold weather testing, the cable flexibility test, and the connector drop test with ease. Next up, it's our extreme heat tests. And we have a new test in the State of Charge garage for extreme heat testing here today, and that is the NEMA 1450 plug extreme heat test. Now, if you follow this channel, you know that one of the biggest problems we're having here in North America with electric vehicle home charging equipment is when people use the plug-in units with the NEMA 1450 plug. If the outlet isn't installed correctly, or if a cheap outlet that isn't designed for the duty cycle of electric vehicle charging is used, the outlet eventually melts, and sometimes it causes a fire in the home. I have a whole video series on this called Recharge Rescue, where I go to people's homes and fix their charging nightmares. And quite often it's because the person used an inferior outlet. And what happens is during the charging process, it overheats, melts, and then catches on fire. So what some EVSE manufacturers now are doing is installing heat sensors in the NEMA 1450 plug. So if the outlet starts overheating, it will shut off or derate the charging before you have a serious problem. Now, the IYILO charger is the first one that I have tested now in the garage that had the heat sensors embedded into the NEMA 1450 plug. It's part of the reason why IYILO says that this is the safest charger you can buy. So we're going to test it out. It actually has heat sensors in the NEMA 1450 plug as well as the J1772 connector. But we don't typically see problems often in the connector itself. Nearly 100% of the time that there's some sort of an overheating problem, it occurs at the NEMA 1450 plug. So what I'm doing here now is baking the NEMA 1450 plug. The unit is charging my Ford F-150 Lightning, which is out in the driveway right now, while I have the plug being baked by the heat lamp. As you can see here, I had to use some tie wraps to get it angled just right, so the heat was really baking and hitting the top of the NEMA 1450 plug. Now what should happen is, when the plug reaches 185 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 85 degrees Celsius, it should derate the charging current and slow down charging to try to cool things off. If the temperature continues to climb and hits 203 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 95 degrees Celsius, charging shuts off. And once the plug temperature lowers, it will automatically resume charging. Now you get notifications through the app as soon as it hits the 185 degrees temperature to say that, there's been a heat issue and we're lowering the current, so you could check on it and see if there's a problem. And you also get a notification when it shuts off charging, when it faults out because it hits 203 degrees Fahrenheit. And you can view the plug temperature in the app. So what I did was, I have the app recording right now, and when I plugged it in, the temperature of the plug was 61 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to see how hot it gets, recording the screen on my phone through the app, so you could see exactly how hot it gets, and if we hit the 185 degree limit, which I think we will, because this heat lamp is really hot and it's maybe about 8 inches from the plug. So I'm hoping that we're able to reach that 185 degree limit between the heat lamp and the fact that it's charging, so it would heat up a lot just from charging. And we'll see how it reacts and make sure that it does do what it's supposed to do. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it to the 203 degree limit where it completely faults out, but we're going to try. I'm going to maybe move the heat lamp a little bit closer if it does hit the 185 degree limit, and then slow the charging rate down, but we'll test it out. And after that, we'll do our usual extreme heat test on the unit itself, where I bake the unit for 2 hours, maintain a surface temperature of 120 degrees, plug in my car, let it charge for 2 hours, make sure that the unit itself doesn't overheat, and derate or shut off charging. So let's see how it does. Okay, I'm back about an hour and 40 minutes later. We were able to succeed and get the plug to hit both 185 degrees Fahrenheit and 203 degrees Fahrenheit, but it wasn't easy. The heat lamp alone couldn't do it. If I put the heat lamp so close that it was really jumping up the temperature, the plug was starting to melt. And you can clearly see the impression the zip tie made in the cover of the NEMA 1450 plug as the plastic melted. And I was kind of stuck at about 160, 165 degrees. Couldn't get the inside of that plug hotter than that. So I got resourceful. I pulled out my wife's blow dryer, put it on high, and stood there for a while holding it, and I noticed it was working. So I then zip tied the blow dryer to the side of this cage here, so it was blowing directly on the other side of the plug, while the heat lamp was on this side. It was kind of, double teaming it, and that worked. We're able to get it up to 185 degrees, where it lowered the output to 32 amps from the 40 amps. Actually, it was only delivering about 38 amps, but that's close enough. A lot of chargers deliver just slightly under what the rated amperage says. And it dropped it down to 32 amps. Now, I will note one thing. It didn't immediately do it when it hit 185 degrees, because I noticed it hit 185 degrees once, but then dropped down to like 182 or 183. It didn't derate. It had to maintain 185 degrees for a while, and then it derated down to 32. That's fine. And then continued with everything on, and it slowly crept up to 203 degrees. I think it took over an hour and a half to get it that hot. And same thing happened. It hit 203 once, didn't shut off. I'd prefer if it's immediately shut offs if the plug hits 203 degrees, because if it hits 203 degrees, there's a problem there. In any event, a minute or so later, I was able to get it to maintain or get over 203 degrees, unit shuts off. Actually, it was odd. The amperage dropped down to like 2 amps. It didn't like completely shut off initially. And then once it dropped down to 2 amps for like, 30 or 40 seconds, the temperature dropped down. So then it turned back on. It was doing this for a while, up and down and up, on and off and on and off. The lightning bolt here went from flashing green to flashing red, and then finally a solid red when it maintained 203 degrees or higher for a little while. Then it shut down. So it worked. I would kind of prefer, as soon as it hits 203 degrees, to have the unit shut off completely. The way it is now, it kind of dances. It turns itself on. As soon as it drops below, then it goes back and it's click, 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 on, off, on, off. If the plug hits 203 degrees, there is a problem. Under no circumstances should that plug, even if it's in direct sunlight, the innards hit 203 degrees. If it does, you're in danger of it melting and having a serious problem. So, I mean, I'd like to see IYILO change the software so that when it hits 203, shut off maybe for a half an hour. Let it completely cool down, turn back on. And if it does it a second time, shut off and not turn on. It needs to be reset. That's how I would program it. But I like the fact that it does work. So it derates at 185 degrees, shuts off when it maintains 205 degrees. Yes, it will kick back on, but if there was a serious issue, there was a fire or something going on in there, it's not going to lower itself like it would here with just the external heat coming on both sides of it. So it would maintain that and wouldn't turn back on. So it's a pass on the NEMA 1450 extreme heat temperature shutoff test for sure. I think IYILO could tweak it, make it a little bit better. But this is a great feature with all the issues we're seeing now with NEMA 1450s. Honestly, if I was going to buy a charger now and use it as a plug-in unit, which number one, I don't recommend. I recommend hardwiring all your chargers. But if you really want a plug-in NEMA 1450, it's got to have a temperature sensor in the plug, in my opinion. Even if you're using a high quality NEMA 1450 outlet, the duty cycle of EV charging is just very demanding, and this is just an extra step of safety, and it's absolutely worth it. So next up, we're gonna do the extreme heat test on the unit itself, and we'll see how that works. And as for the extreme heat test for the unit itself, I put the radiant heater on it for 2 hours and maintained a surface temperature of right around 120 to 125 degrees for those 2 hours. Then I plugged in my F-150 Lightning and left the heater on, ran it for 2 hours and 10 minutes. The unit delivered 19 kilowatt hour, and I was monitoring the app the whole time. It was delivering the full amperage, which was around 38.5 amps. It didn't deliver a full 40 amps, but that's kind of normal. I see that frequently with the charger. Sometimes they're at 39, sometimes 40. And I also have a little bit low voltage at my house right now. It's not full 240 volts. It's only running around 230 volts. So we got a little bit less. It was averaging, delivering to the vehicle about 9 kilowatt instead of about 9.4, 9.5, something like that, which would be the full power delivery. But that's normal. It's really not anything that's an issue with the unit. And so it worked for the 2 hours just fine, delivered the full power, never derated. The surface temperature on the unit now is up to 174 degrees. These things heat up while they're charging for 2 hours, and I leave the unit on it. That's to simulate if it's mounted outside somewhere and it's got direct sunlight baking on it. This is a black unit, so this is gonna really absorb that sunlight and heat up. And here for 2 hours, delivering the full power, no issues whatsoever. And also, by the way, the plug has cooled down by now, and it's under 100 degrees. So it took a while to cool down because actively charging at 40 amps, a lot of power was still passing through it. So, but it gradually went all the way down to under 100 degrees now and normal. So the unit passes both the extreme heat test for the unit and also the power derating and shutting off if the NEMA 1450 plug overheats, which is an excellent safety feature. It's going to get extra points on our ChargerRater for that. And finally, we're going to do the automatic restart test. With the automatic restart test, I plug in one of my electric vehicles and have the unit charging as it is now. You can see the green flashing lightning bolt there. I'm then going to cut power to this circuit. Wait about a minute, turn it back on. What we want to see is the charger re-engage the vehicle and begin charging it again. You don't want to have an instance where overnight you're sleeping, your car's charging, there's a temporary power outage. It could just flicker for a few seconds and then the charger remaining in a fault mode and not re-engaging the vehicle. So you wake up and your car's not charged. We found that some chargers do this. It seems like less and less now because the manufacturers are ironing this problem out. But a few years ago, I found it was a very common problem. So we're just going to test out and make sure that the IYILO re-engages the electric vehicle and begins charging it again once power is restored. Okay, so I just got back from my service panel and it has already started charging again. You can see the green lightning bolt is flashing. Now the Wi-Fi I saw was blinking red before because it had to reconnect to my Wi-Fi, and it already has. So we're all good here. The unit passes the automatic restart test. The IYILO charger is a Wi-Fi connected smart charger, and it comes with the IYILO app. And it's actually a very simple process, straightforward to pair it with your app. Easier than what I've found most electric vehicle chargers are. I've had this thing paired and done in about 2 minutes. Some of the other units that I've installed seem to have a cumbersome, clunky pairing setup, and it takes a while to do it. But this is really simple, straightforward, and like I said, a couple of minutes it was done and ready to go. And once you have it set up, while you're charging, you can see the line voltage, how many amps it's delivering, the current charging power in kilowatts, the duration of your charging session, how many kilowatt hour has been dispensed, the cost of that charging session. Of course, you have to enter how much you pay for electricity, and also really cool, the temperatures, both of the plug, if you have a plug-in unit, and also the connectors temperature. So very useful information. There are very few electric vehicle chargers give you this information through the app. And as we talked about earlier, it's very important for safety that you monitor and make sure nothing is getting too hot. It also has very good detailed records on your charging history, and you can filter it to show either all of your charging sessions, which most people would do if they had it installed in their garage like here, but this can also be used commercially if you have, as I mentioned, Airbnb or something like that, where the charger's in a public area and you're going to allow different users to use it. So you can have the charging data set up to show all. You can also look at how many free sessions you offered, how many sessions, and the data from app scheduled sessions, how many sessions, and all the data from RFID card use, and also how many for app controlled use if you turn it on manually through the app. So you might have multiple users using this and different RFID cards and whatever, and you can filter out so you know exactly what each person used. I thought that was really interesting, and you could set it up. You could take a look at their data from daily, weekly, monthly, and total. So it actually has a pretty good detailed record-keeping session. And there's also the notifications that show you if there were any faults, like what happened when I did the extreme heat test. You could filter through that and see when that happened, and it alerts you. Well, you're supposed to get that text message sent to you. I mentioned earlier that didn't happen to me, but when you open the app, you can see there's a red dot on notifications. It means you have a notification. You can look in there and you see that there was a overheating problem. And if you look at my records here, you can see that the charger turned on and off, as I mentioned, during the extreme heat testing because the temperature was going above and below. You could see all these notifications here, so you know exactly what was going on, and knowledge is power. If you are having some sort of a problem with your charging equipment, it's great to have this kind of granular information to see exactly what was going on, and you know, that'll help you diagnose what the issue was. You could also set charging schedules and different time of use cost. You might pay less if you're on a time of use cost overnight than during peak hours. So you could put all that information in the app and then schedule your charging use so that you optimize the lowest cost electricity, and that can save you some money that way. So overall, this app is better than most. It may not be the best charging app that I've ever had, but it's up there. So it's going to actually score well on our ChargerRater for the app features. The IYILO also has two very important smart charging features that deserve mentioning here. Number one, it can power share. And in doing so, that allows you to have multiple chargers set up on a single circuit. Let's say you already have a NEMA 1450 outlet or a 60 amp feed in your garage powering a 48 amp charger, and you need another charger. You've got your second EV and you want to be able to charge them both at the same time. You could share that one circuit that you have coming from your service panel for two chargers. It will intelligently balance the power between the two chargers, and when one car stops charging, it'll give all the power to the other charger, and you don't have to pull a second circuit, which in many instances your home's service panel can't spare another 50 or 60 amps. That one 50 or 60 amp run you have going to the garage has got you maxed out. Many people don't even have enough capacity to add a 60 amp circuit, which we're going to get into next. So you can use one circuit and share it amongst multiple units with the IYILO. The second feature is dynamic or intelligent load management. And with that, you can set up a high-powered circuit to power a high-powered charger, even if your home service capacity can't spare it. Now, I've done other videos here, particularly with the Emporia Pro, and talked about intelligent load balancing. And it's a great feature that's kind of new to electric vehicle chargers. Only in the last year or two have these been available. Before that, if you wanted to add a high-powered circuit, for instance, you need a 60 amp dedicated circuit for a 48 amp charger, and your service panel was already maxed out, you couldn't add it unless you had an expensive service upgrade, a full home service upgrade. And many homes in America have a 100 or 150 amp main. They typically can't spare a 60 amp dedicated circuit. But with intelligent load management, you can, because what happens is the unit actually manages your home's power. Now, even if you have a full service panel, that doesn't mean that your house is maxed out with the electric it's using. It just means the panel's maxed out. But typically, your home is only using a fraction of what its maximum power output could be. So what the intelligent load management chargers do is they monitor the real-time power that your home is actually using, and it uses the spare capacity to feed the charger and charger EV. In many instances, you're charging at full power. But let's say you only have a 100 amp main and you've got air conditioning and an electric range, and you come home to plug in your electric vehicle, but because you have everything else on, you don't have enough spare power to charge the vehicle at 48 amps. What the load management does is it'll lower the output. It'll charge the car at a lower rate. But then you turn your range off and you've got more capacity. So it bumps up that charging power and charges it at a higher speed. Then the air conditioning shuts off because it's late at night and it's cooler out. Now all of a sudden it jumps up to the full power and lets you charge the vehicle. And with the IYILO charger, you can actually use the intelligent load management with power sharing. You can combine the two. So you can have multiple chargers in your garage, even if your service capacity doesn't have enough capacity to have one dedicated charger. So that's really cool that you can combine those two features. If you do want the intelligent load management, they sell a separate unit with the equipment that you need to put in your service panel bundled in. And that's currently available right now for $509 on Amazon, which is a ridiculously cheap price. The Emporia Pro, for instance, which I believe it might be the second least expensive unit that bundles everything together, gives you everything you need to do load management, costs $599, which in itself is a great price. This is $90 less. And in that kit, these are some of the things. You get this power meter, and you get 16 feet of this RS485 cable. But that's the one thing that I don't love about the IYILO's intelligent load management. It is the fact that it's not paired through Wi-Fi to the equipment in your service panel. It's hardwired with this cable. So they give you 16 feet of it, which would work in many instances if your service panel is in your garage. But if you live in a home like me and the service panel's in the basement on the other side of the house, it's like an 80-foot run. And then the cable they give you is not enough. You'd have to go out and buy more of this cable. It's not that big of a deal, but you've got to snake it, through your basement and get it out to the charger. Whereas with some of the other units, that's all done through Wi-Fi, like the Emporia. You don't have to run a separate wire to the charger from your service panel. I believe the company is working on having this done wirelessly. Right now, it's not. So if you want the intelligent load management, you have to get it hardwired to your from your charger to your service panel, where this power meter gets installed and the CT clips, and you're going to have a licensed electrician do all that. I'm not going to go into how to install that because I don't want any of my followers working in their load center, their service panel, because it's definitely not safe. You want a pro doing that. But it's fantastic that this unit at this price offers these options. So this charger, the more I learn about it, the more I'm impressed. It has a ton of features for a great price. Okay, so I've been using the IYILO charger, both this hardwired version here that you see me using currently, and the plug-in unit with the NEMA 1450 plug, the one that I used for the NEMA 1450 plug extreme heat test here in the garage for a couple of weeks now on my various EVs. And both units performed flawlessly. All of the features worked that I tested. There were no issues with anything. And honestly, it's been a pleasure to work with. I really like this connector. I mentioned it earlier. It's not the only charger that uses this connector. Other companies use it. It's one of my favorite connectors on the market. It's really well built. It has like a rubberized grip, nice metal locking tab on the hood. It feels like one of the better made connectors, and that's important because you don't want to drop this and break it. In most instances, the companies don't even sell you a replacement, and you got to buy a whole new unit if this thing's broken. I also like how it holsters. This integrated holster connector here has a beveled edge here. So what happens is you don't have to be perfect when you holster the connector. Almost anywhere you hit it, it's going to holster. Even if you're coming in on the side, you do that. Some of the chargers have a connector holster where the hole is straight on and exactly the size of the connector. And if you're not perfect, you do this and you hit it and it won't holster. With this, almost anywhere you put it, it's going to lock in. Really nice design there. Also like this cable. I measured it to only 14.3 millimeter. It's one of the thinnest cables we've ever tested here, and you saw that it worked fantastic for our cold weather test. The combination of the flexibility as well as the fact that it's thin made it one of the best performing cold weather cables. So if you live in a cold weather area, one of the northern states, and you need to install your charger outside or even in your garage if it's not a heated garage, this would make a great unit for that because you're not going to have any issues with the cable. Some of the cables we test here, when we freeze them, they're like frozen garden hoses. You literally can't bend them, you can't do anything with them. And that becomes a real usability problem if you live in the northern states. Of course, if you live in Southern California, that's not an issue, but we've got a lot of EVs in the northern states also. Otherwise, everything else has really been great with it. I used the RFID cards. It comes with two RFID cards for remote use so that you can lock the charger out. And if it's in a public place and you need this card to activate it, works fine. All the features work great. I'm finding it difficult to find flaws with the unit. If you really want to press me, the fact that it doesn't have the NACS option is an issue. So if you had a NACS vehicle and you really wanted this charger, you have to use an adapter, which I have right here. So these adapters are very inexpensive. You can get them for like $50, $60. And now you can use this to charge any NACS car you want, but now it won't holster, right? So every day you got to take this thing on and off. What a pain. Well, you don't have to. You can buy a NACS remote connector holster online, super cheap. They're like 20 bucks, something like that. So if you really want this unit and you have a NACS car, you could do one of two things. Wait until they have a NACS option. I'm sure they're going to. At this point, they didn't give me any guidance on when that would be available, but they have to. The whole market's going in that direction. Or you could just use the adapter and get yourself a remote connector holster. A lot of people prefer remote connector holsters anyway because you could locate them anywhere. You could have the unit installed here and then the remote connector holster on a side wall right where your charge port is. So you just basically grab the thing and plug it into your charge port. So, but that depends on where you locate your charger. So yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to buy this if I had a NACS vehicle because just use the adapter just fine. And you know, everything else worked flawlessly on the charger. I'm actually really surprised with how well this charger performed and how well it did in my review here. You know, only thing that's left is the scoring. And for that, we're going to first go to the ChargerRater. All right, we'll start off with the cost and value category. It gets 3 points because it costs less than $400. It gets 3 points for warranty because it has a 3-year warranty. And it's going to get 2 points in the value category because I view this as an excellent value. In all, it scores 23 points in our cost and value category, a fantastic start. Next up for power and construction. It doesn't get any points for max charging power because it delivers 48 amps and that's our baseline for points. It's going to get 2 points for adjustable power because you can adjust the power on an internal dip switch but also through the app. For cable length, it's going to get 2 points. It has a 25-foot cable. For the connector, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 because I really like this connector. For connector holster, it's going to get 3 points. For the temperature sensor in the plug, this unit does have a functioning temperature sensor in the plug. You saw that in the video, so it's going to get 2 points there. And it'll finish up the power and construction category with 28 points. On to the testing category. The extreme cold weather test, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. This is one of the best performing cold weather cables that we've seen, and the connector is one of the best connectors on the market, so it easily passed the frozen connector drop test. For the extreme heat test, it gets no points there because you can only lose points if the unit itself derates power or shuts off because it gets too hot. For the automatic restart test, it gets a point there because it passed it. For safety certified category, it gets no points because it is safety certified. You can only lose points. And for Energy Star rating, it gets 1 point because it is Energy Star rated, and it finishes the testing category with 22 points. And for the app category, I'm going to give it 4 points out of 5. I really liked how easy this app was to pair with the unit, much easier than most units. And also for the features it has a lot of really good features packed into it, and it's easy to navigate. It's going to get 2 points because it is power share capable. It's going to get 3 points because it can do intelligent load management. It's not going to get any points for solar charging, and it's going to get 3 points for access control because you can control the unit through your app as well as with RFID cards, which are provided with the unit. And for OCPP standardization, it's going to get 3 points because you can direct the unit to third-party apps. And that means the IYILO is going to finish up the intelligence category with a whopping 30 points, the highest any charger's ever scored in this category. And that gives the IYILO 48 amp charger a grand total of 103 points on the ChargerRater, which when you convert that to a 5-star rating equals 5.15 stars out of 5. This darn thing broke my ChargerRater scoring system. And to make matters worse, I just changed the whole ChargerRater about 6 months ago and made it much harder because there were a few chargers now that were scoring close to 100 points. And because the industry is getting better and the chargers are getting better and better, offering more and more features, I had to make the ChargerRater more difficult. So after I made it more difficult, I rescored all the other top chargers that I've reviewed here. And only one, I think, or maybe two, even scored higher than 90 points. So I thought that I was safe. I guess not. 103 points. So it's hard to say a lot of bad things about this unit. I'm actually super surprised. This is a new company. They came out of nowhere. It's almost as if they designed the thing specifically with my scoring in mind because they checked just about every single box you can check other than the specific solar charging. You can't use this to charge your electric vehicle with strictly excess solar energy from a solar array on your home. Like there's a few other chargers out there that can do that. And the price is ridiculous. Right now, you can buy for $309 on Amazon. You can't even buy low quality chargers that aren't safety certified with no smart charging features for $309 in many cases. So I don't know how they're doing it. I don't expect this to be that low of a price forever because it's a super unit at a ridiculous price right now. I am impressed. Longevity, it's a new charger. That's something that I always am concerned with because I've seen other chargers come to market and have lots of problems. Like 8 months in, you see the Amazon reviews where people are saying the thing broke, I'm on my 3rd unit, so we don't know how well this is made. That's a wild card there. It's a brand new company. They came out of nowhere And is it robust? Is it going to last forever? I wish the outer casing was a little bit thicker. It's not bad, but many of the other chargers on the market have a better outer shell. Now, if you install it inside a garage like I have it in here, that wouldn't be a problem. But many of these are installed outside in harsh climates. Is that going to be an issue? I don't know. I know this plastic conduit would not hold up outside in harsh weather environments where you get extreme cold and then extreme heat. If I were to install this outside, I would use a different conduit. I'd go to an electrical supply house and buy something really made for the outdoor weather. But for indoors, it would be fine. It's hard for me to nitpick and find things that are wrong with it because, quite honestly, this is a fantastic unit at a fantastic price, and I am incredibly impressed with it. All right, only thing that's left now is to take a look at my hits and misses. Okay, we'll start off with the hits. The IYILO has a great price, only $359. And currently, the 48 amp unit is on sale on Amazon for only $309. That's a ridiculously good price. If the company is able to hold the price of this unit down under $400, man, this thing's going to sell like hotcakes. And that's because of my next hit. It's a great unit that is packed with features. I mean, this checks the box of just about every smart charging feature that anybody would want other than solar charging. And it also has fantastic cold weather performance. The cable is one of the best performing cold weather cables we've ever tested here. All right, next up we'll do the misses. The biggest miss probably is the fact that there's no NACS option. Now, it's not that big of a deal. You can use an adapter, but for many of my followers, not being able to buy it with a native NACS plug is a non-starter right from there. I'm sure the company's going to offer one in the future, but right now, the only option is getting it with the J1772 connector. And the next miss I'm going to say is because this is a new company. They're brand new to the EV charging scene. We have no data on how reliable these units are going to be over time. And quite honestly, we've seen a lot of new companies come and then go out of business because they had so many charger failures that the company just stopped making them. I hope that isn't the case with this unit because it's a fantastic unit, but we just don't know yet. The company doesn't have a track record. And finally, I'm nitpicking a little bit here, but I'm going to say the plastic enclosure is one of my misses. It's not bad, but it's not nearly as thick of plastic and as robust as some of the other chargers we've tested here. I don't think it's a problem, particularly if you're installing it indoors in your garage, but over time, if this is mounted outdoors in harsh weather, I'm a little concerned for longevity with the outer casing. All right, well, that's a wrap on my full comprehensive review of the IYILO electric vehicle charger. If you haven't noticed already, I'm extremely impressed by this new entry into the field. And if you've made it all the way to here, you've probably watched the whole video, but if you just came to the end for a summary, you might be interested in my quick charge version of this full review, which I'll be putting out maybe about a week or two after the full review. And that's when I take this full review, compress it down to 10 minutes. For those of you that don't want to sit through a 45-minute electric vehicle charger review. But I do know that a lot of my followers do like these comprehensive reviews to learn all the little points about the chargers. So that's why I post these first. Okay, so as I said, pretty impressed with this guy. I mean, you know, if you told me to engineer and bring an electric vehicle charger to market, this would be kind of what I would do. It checked pretty much all of the boxes that I look for. I mean, I love the cable and the connector. Fantastic, tremendous cold weather performance, one of the best cold weather cables we've tested. The connector is, you know, while it's a commodity that you can buy and use on any charger, it's one of the better connectors on the market. The app was really easy to set up and is filled with rich information, a lot of good comprehensive information. It's easy to navigate. Some of the apps that I've noticed are very clunky, and it takes me a while to figure out how to find what I want to find. And, you know, I do this for a living, so I can imagine somebody who really isn't very app savvy, it might get frustrating. This app was super easy to work. You know, one of the things I didn't mention, I just gave it points in the ChargerRater, is that you can direct the charger to a third-party app, which is very rare in this industry. And why would you want to do that when their app is so good? Well, as I mentioned, the company's a new company. You know, who knows? What if they go out of business in a couple of years? Then you're stuck with a dumb charger, like what happened with NLX. They left the North American market and all the juice boxes out there, and it was one of the better selling chargers on the market. All their customers were left with dumb chargers because they weren't able to direct the charger to a different app. IYILO allows you to do that. And it's a fairly simple process. I didn't really go into it in the review, but we'll talk a little bit about it here. First, what you have to do is go to the advanced section in the app and enable OCPP. You then enter the URL of the app that you want to use. Let's say it was ChargerRater, which is a third-party app. And then you leave, there's an authorization key there, you leave that blank. You then go to the ChargerRater platform and add the charger's serial number, which is on the side of the unit. And then finally, you do a hard reboot of the unit. Basically, you unplug it, wait a little bit, and then plug it back in. And the ChargerRater app should be able to connect to the unit. So that gives you options if you want to use a different third-party app. I mean, as long as the IYILO app is functioning, I would recommend use it because it's a good app. But they give you that option, and almost no other companies do. United Chargers gives you that option, although they recently started charging. You have to pay a fee to have that directed to a different app, but at least you can with that unit. Most of the other chargers, you can't. They go out of business, that app shuts down, you have a dumb charger now. You have no access to having an app to manage it. So that's another thing that they did really well. The temperature sensors, both on the J1772 connector and the NEMA 1450 plug. That is huge. With all the issues we're having with these faulty NEMA 1450 outlets, the fact that if the plug detects that it's getting too hot, it derates and then shuts off. Tremendous safety feature. Now, I know other companies are working on this, and I think by the end of 2026, there's going to be 5 or 6 chargers out there that have that safety feature built in, which is a tremendous safety feature to have. The unit does intelligent load management. It allows you to power share between two. You are limited to 2 units. I got confirmation from IYILO, but still most people in their garage at home don't need to use more than 2 units. Commercially, if this was an apartment complex or whatever, there are chargers out there that allow you to power share between a string of chargers. This unit can't currently do that. IYILO said that they're working on that, and future iterations will allow you to do that. But for now, you can just power share one circuit with 2 units. And the price, you know, for $359 is a regular price, and now you can get it for $310. It's really hard to beat that. It wasn't long ago that you had to spend $600 or $700 to get a high quality electric vehicle charger. Now, I mean, you've got companies like Emporia and United Chargers that bring great quality, and there's others. I don't mean to leave others out. That was just 2 on the top of my head that offer tremendous high quality charging equipment at low prices. And this appears to be another one. Now, again, the only thing we have to watch out is for robust construction, for longevity. You know, there's other units that I've had my followers tell me that they've had a lot of problems with other brands. We'll see how this holds up, but it checks nearly all the boxes that you could want. It doesn't have a NACS connector, which, you know, I think a lot of people might not buy it just for that reason alone. Also, there are some of my followers that have solar arrays that like to charge their EV strictly from excess solar generation. It currently can't do that. That's another feature that IYILO told me they are working on. So, I mean, to come out of the box with their first unit and produce what they've done here, I think it's remarkable. And it's good for the industry because that's going to make everybody better. And that's what we want. We want good, high quality, highly functioning electric vehicle charging equipment at low prices. And we're getting it after years of, you know, many of the units that I reviewed and many of the units that I used here, I didn't even want to review because I didn't even want to give them oxygen. Now we're getting a lot of these new companies come out with really good equipment. And this is a perfect example of this. I mean, it basically broke the ChargerRater that I just re-engineered to make it super hard so nobody could score 100 points, and it goes out and breaks that threshold with 103 points, which is remarkable. And I give them all the credit in the world. So that's pretty much it for my review here. If you're interested in buying the IYILO charger, I do have a link in the description of this video. 2 links, one where you can buy directly from IYILO, the other one you can get on Amazon. Now I do have to note that I do earn commissions from these links, as I do, and as I have been doing with all of the chargers that we review here on State of Charge. It's a small commission, but I do have to make sure you understand that. You know, that's pretty much industry standard. So yeah, if you're interested in this unit, click on that link in the description and purchase it. And listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, thanks for watching this long review. Please click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.